Welcome to another Acoustic Alternatives. I'm John Bommarito from Grove Studios in Ypsilanti. It's an awesome space to record a podcast or maybe hold a band practice without disturbing the neighbors. Practice your DJ skills. It's a really interesting option to get out of your garage and find a place to practice that doesn't disturb your neighbors. And today on Acoustic Alternatives, I'm happy to present a mighty fine pop and roll singer, as he calls himself, who I'm getting to interview for the first time today, thanks to the generous support from Zingerman's Gray Line in Ann Arbor. A great place you can trust is their motto. I've got more to say about them a little bit later, but zingermansgrayline.com is a good place to start. Open up a different browser if you're looking for a place to hold an event, and check them out while I introduce you to Steve Everett. Hello, Steve.
Great intro. I'm happy to be here.
It's so good to see you. We talked about doing this, must have been summer. Couldn't have been fall, could it?
Yeah,
because it was a little fall-y.
Usually if you see me in Michigan, which was the case, then it's the summertime. This is a rare appearance during cold weather time.
Well, you're coming up today because you happen to be on a bill in Lake Orion, and I thought this would be a great opportunity to talk about an album that you passed along to me called Little Winds, and I purchased it at your show, and I loved it. In fact, I don't know if you know this, of the 100 or so albums that I heard that were released in 2021, it's my opinion that Steve Everett's Little Winds was the sixth best album I heard in 2021.
That's high praise.
That is actually pretty high praise.
I'll take that. I'm familiar with just how many records there are at any given time that are released. So if you make somebody's top 20, it's an honor.
Unfortunately, I left it at home. It's on my desk at home, so I would hold it up to the cameras and show people. But I think maybe the best thing to do would be for you to play a song from it.
Yeah, absolutely.
What song would you like to start with?
This is a song called What's in the Well, and it was the single on this record. Basically, there was this lady. I was born in Albany, Georgia, and there was this lady named My Reese who would come watch my brother and I when we were little kids, when my parents would have a date night. And she would just, if we had the TV on or the radio on, she would say, tell us to cut it off. And if we asked why, she would say, what's in the well comes up in the bucket. And so she just didn't want us to poison our wells. And that's been in my family for my whole life. So basically, I just kind of called my family and we brainstormed some ideas, and this song just kind of fell out.
It's an earworm, I got to tell you.
Thanks, man.
It's stuck in my head every time.
Well, my Reese is no longer with us, so this is just kind of a tribute to a lady that meant a lot to our family. Well, it's 86 in Albany. Friday night about 6:15, Mom and Dad's anniversary, and my Reese is at the door. 55 and 5 foot nothing, sweet as pie, but by both thumping. Every time we were watching something, she'd come and cut it off, and she'd say, what's in the well comes up in the bucket. You can waste time, but it don't stop running. Seasons change, but it won't change nothing. What's in the well comes up in the bucket. Well, it's 96 in old NC. Friends are passing around a magazine, stuff my dad wouldn't let me see. So I up and took off. Waited at school for a couple days. Everybody asked why I ran away. I couldn't think of something cool to say, so I reached for the same old song. I said, what's in the well comes up in the bucket. You can waste time, but it don't stop running. Seasons change, but it won't change nothing. What's in the well comes up in the bucket. We haven't talked since I was 7, but I talked about her my whole life. I guess a good enough lesson keeps itself alive. What's in the well comes up in the bucket. You can waste time, but it don't stop running. Seasons change, but it won't change nothing. What's in the well, yeah. What's in the well comes up in the bucket. You can waste time, but it don't stop running. Seasons change, but it won't change nothing. What's in the well comes up in the bucket, yeah. Comes up in the bucket, yeah.
Steve Everett on Acoustic Alternatives from the album Little Winds, as I mentioned, full of goodness and catchy hooks. That is, how do you get that song out of your head once you hear it? You can't. You just can't.
Man, well, any song that you write, it takes you a little while. That's kind of the, you don't know it's good until you get sick of it. And then only then, because yeah, you're right. When you first come up with a melody, especially when you're trying to write catchy songs, which is always a goal of mine. Yeah, I mean, it gets stuck in your own head and you kind of have to do it until you hate it to really think of it objectively.
Do you get sick of your own songs?
Yeah, I don't think you can do a good job with them until you're kind of over it, because when it's still fun for you, then you're still exploring, So it's really only when you've played it enough times to know every little nook and cranny and where all your options are, kind of escape routes and how you're going to play it when you're 100%, how you're going to play it when you're 80%. It just, once you've kind of investigated everything, it's just like anything else. You can just like millionaires always talk about. I actually lived across the street from Derrick Henry, the running back for the Tennessee Titans, for a couple years, and I just thought about it all the time. Like, he's a multimillionaire, and he looks at our house every day, from his mansion, and we get to look at his house. But this nothing changes, and you can get used to anything. I'm sure that $10 million feels a lot like $10,000 to somebody who's had $10 million for a long time. So it's kind of the same thing with songs.
I was actually chatting with a friend of mine over lunch the other day about music in general. That's our common bond. And one of his former bandmates is in a different project, and he was hearing one of the songs from their forthcoming album, and he thought, "Wow, it seems like it's a perfect song. I'm going to play it and see if I ever get sick of it." So he said he played it nonstop while he worked for 9 hours a day for 2 weeks and never got sick of it. And he said, "I should just stop because I don't think I'm ever going to get sick of this perfect song."
That's amazing.
I know. I can't wait to hear that song again because I had heard it. I just hadn't. It didn't stick with me the way it stuck with him immediately. So
that's how I feel about Stevie Wonder's "Signed, Sealed, Delivered."
Oh,
I could listen to that song. Like, I don't cover it or anything because that is kind of how
you can't touch it.
Yeah, I love Stevie, but yeah, Desert Island. I could listen to that song all day, every day, and never get sick of it.
That's good to know. We might have gotten to that question later, but I don't think I actually had it on here. Well, let's back up. Way back. Life started for you in Albany, Georgia, and before your family moved you to Greensboro, North Carolina. Is Greensboro known for anything particular?
Yeah. So we moved to High Point, which is like right next to Greensboro.
Okay.
But even smaller town. Greensboro's got the International Civil Rights Museum, and it's where the lunch counter sit-ins were.
Oh, okay.
And so that's that Woolworths where that happened, or whatever it was. It was right downtown, and there's a bunch of historically black colleges and universities in North Carolina, as well as some of the hugest universities. So there's just a lot in that area that you can kind of have access to. But High Point is just the only thing that was really going on there was it's the furniture capital of the world. So people from like Gucci and Prada, high-end leather companies and all these huge furniture companies would send people to High Point, North Carolina from all over the world. And there weren't enough hotels or anything, so they would just rent families' houses out, and it was before Airbnb. And so, 2 weeks a year, we were just kind of out of our own house and meeting people from Italy and all over the world. It was a really interesting place to grow up.
So you liked it?
Yeah, I think North Carolina is just a great melting pot. There's just enough, college towns and industry to keep a lot of people from all over the place there. And then, the folks who are from there, it's not quite the deep South, it's a little closer to all the art and culture that exists kind of in the northern half of the country. So it's just kind of the best of both worlds.
That's where you finished, like your primary school, your high school there.
Yeah, I've lived there since, from age like 3 to, 25 or something.
Were you involved in the bands at school? Did you do musicals?
Yeah.
Did you do any of that stuff at high school?
Yeah, my dad sang opera back in the 70s. Yeah, he was in New York and San Francisco, all over the place. But he's been a church choir director my whole life. So I was in music really early on and played every instrument that was available to me. So I would just kind of, in 6th grade when I started band, I just asked what they didn't have, and then I would learn a new instrument every day, or every year, whatever the weak spot was. And it was just, I knew real early on this was it.
What point was that early on? Is like 5 or 10?
Yeah, my mom took me to school for the first day, in like kindergarten or something, and I apparently was like, "Oh, this isn't what I'm supposed to do. Like, I'm supposed to play for people. I'm supposed to like entertain people."
Really early.
Yeah, and she was just like, "Okay, well, today you're going to school."
Sorry, kid.
Yeah.
You can play for me when you get home, right?
Maybe learn how to play anything before you decide to make this your career.
Was there a decent local music scene in that area as well that you might have been influenced by, or did you have to seek out music?
Really had to seek it out because my dad was into classical music and worked at a church. So there's a lot of church music and classical stuff like sacred music, and it just wasn't a real like top 40 rock and roll. That wasn't on my radar until I kind of got away and was left to my own devices. So that was. It was a peaceful upbringing, and it was very musical, but not very, rock, pop, folk musical.
So bands wouldn't come through your area and play near you. Like, did you have a place to go see your favorite bands nearby?
Yeah, I did. I went to a whole bunch of Sister Hazel shows in Winston-Salem, North Carolina.
Not a bad thing.
Yeah. but we did. You had to drive half hour to get to a decent sized venue.
That's not bad, though.
Nah,
not bad at all. Do you remember the first song you wrote?
I do. It was for my mom for Mother's Day.
How old were you then?
I was like 10.
Oh.
Yeah, I got a guitar for $30 at a garage sale with this lady Nita, who would Nita Nichols would always take me like yard sailing, just something to get me out of the house and give me some experiences as a kid. But she bought me this really cheap acoustic guitar at a yard sale, and I just was like, oh, this is it, And so after a couple years, I had written some songs and was having fun. But yeah, that first one that I ever tried, it was it's like, oh yeah, I'm a mommy, MOMMY. You don't want to mess with me. I can make a grown man cry.
Nice. I remember some lyrics I wrote when I was a teenager about girls that I had crushes on, but yeah, I never turned them in. I don't play anything, so they're still just like poems in my head.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you could do the kind of like a Def Jam, like smash slam poetry type of thing. I always think that's entertaining.
It wouldn't be very good if it was me. How about the first gig you played? Do you remember that?
I do. I was in a band when I was 15 called The Road. I didn't name it. It was already named when I got there. But yeah, we played this gymnasium. I don't remember what it was attached to, but I just remember I didn't book the show, being 15, and I had like a dress shirt that was like, had my mom like press it fresh. So I thought that was rock and roll for some reason. So I've just got this like untucked dress shirt, buzzed head, clean shaven. I look like a thumb. It was just an absolute tragedy visually. And we got up there, and I hadn't thought about like, oh, what am I going to do when I'm actually in front of people? Because before that, you're just at your house with your guitar, and it's very safe, and you have unlimited chances to get it right. And I just remember we walked out, and there was like 200 kids in there, and we were up on this big stage in the gym, and I was just like, this is the most fun moment of my entire life. Like, I got to do this every day if it's possible.
And now that you do it for a living, I mean, do you ever think how weird it is that your job is to stand in front of people and wait for them to clap? I mean, that's kind of your job, other than all the driving, really. The driving is
the driving feels like mostly what the job is. It's kind of like a filter you have to walk through if you want to be a professional touring musician.
For sure.
But yeah, I mean, honestly, I think of it all the time. Just like, this is such a charmed life, and kind of what we were talking about earlier about, you can kind of get used to anything and maybe you lose a little focus. COVID has been great for reminding you, like, hey, remember how special it is to travel around America and people come out and listen and clap? Like, that's pretty cool, man.
Let's keep doing that, please.
Yeah, 12-year-old me thinks I'm like an intergalactic rock star, so I try to stay in that headspace.
Steve Everett's my guest today on Acoustic Alternatives. Before we dig a little deeper and ask more questions, do you have another song you feel like doing?
Yeah, absolutely.
You have a guitar there. We're going to do 4, so why not?
I like
Actually,
it.
You're going to do 4. I'm going to sit here and watch.
I was about to say, are you going to come in on the harmony?
Maybe, but no.
This is one. This is called "Pick Your Head Up," and I wrote this on an EP, kind of in between full-length records. I just released, as you said. Thank you very much for the kind words on Little Wins.
It's great.
That was my 4th full-length, and in between, I always do like a little 4-song EP where I get a little more experimental and maybe a little more modern. And this is a song called "Pick Your Head Up," and it's basically, I wrote it with a girl named Brittany Monroe. And half the song is from the male perspective on a love, and then the other half is from female perspective on a love, and it just kind of turned into this female empowerment anthem about like not getting in your own way. I don't know. It's just, thanks, Brittany. This actually got featured in Rolling Stone magazine, which was the craziest thing that's ever happened to me. So I love this song. Jenny isn't pretty, or so she thinks. So she goes to parties by herself, sits alone and drinks, and dreams of being pretty and all it brings. Like getting into sold out shows and having cute boys buy her things. She wants to dance, but she's ready to leave, yeah, to leave, yeah. Meanwhile, a boy there is dying to meet her, thinking, hey, pick your head up, look around. You might be standing on your crown, stuck inside your own mind, burning your own castle down. Cinderella, don't get in your carriage yet, 'cause I think I found your slipper in your prince. Yeah. Jeffrey isn't smooth, no, or so he thinks, as he makes his way across the party, carrying 2 drinks. But Jenny sees him coming, and she moves out of his way. Seems surprised when they lock eyes, and he stops in front of her to say he wants to dance, but he needs her to lead him, to lead him. Soon as he saw her, he was dying to meet her, thinking, hey, pick your head up, look around. You might be standing on your crown, stuck inside your own mind, burning your own castle down. Cinderella, don't get in your carriage yet, 'cause I think I found your slipper in your... It goes to show that you never know, 'cause beauty is only in the beholder thinking, pick your head up, look around. You might be standing on, hey, pick your head up, look around. You might be standing on your crown, stuck inside your own mind, burning your own castle down. Cinderella, don't get in your carriage yet, 'cause I think I found your slipper in your... Cinderella, don't get in your carriage yet, 'cause I think I found your slipper in your prince. Yeah, well, pick your head up.
Steve Everett is my guest today on Acoustic Alternatives. A song you said was featured in Rolling Stone. What did they have to say about that song? What was the compliment?
They do a top 10 list of songs you should check out every issue, and it was just included in that. But there was no heads up ahead of time. So yeah, I was just on the West Coast, actually with J.D. Iker, who I'm playing tonight with. And I just woke up to a whole bunch of texts, you know. And when you wake up on the West Coast, you've already missed a lot of the day, you know, to your East Coast friends. So it was a large number of texts, and the first few that I read just were like, congratulate, and I couldn't figure out what was going on. And then somebody sent me the link, and I was just like, no way. You know?
High five. Cool.
Yeah, thanks.
I've never been in Rolling Stone.
Yeah, well, as somebody who's been in 1,000 times more than you, it's pretty cool.
Yes, I bet. Now, I know you've been through Ann Arbor and the area a few times. We're in Ypsilanti today, but you've probably heard of Zingerman's, right? I mean, who hasn't heard of Zingerman's? Best known for their food, but they have some branches of their business. And one of them, which I'm very honored, has chosen to sponsor me, is Zingerman's Gray Line. So you don't live here, but if you maybe wanted to plan an event, that would be a great place to do it. I've DJ'd weddings there on a number of occasions. I've been asked to DJ there on a number of occasions, and it's a really cool place. It's a great place a great space you can trust, as they say. It's ideal for social events like casual and upscale weddings, rehearsal dinners, birthday parties, bar and bat mitzvahs, retirement parties, and tailgate parties. The Gray Line is also good for corporate meetings. I've been there for a roast of sorts for somebody, training sessions, staff parties. It's fully equipped with electrical and AV, and DJs and bands have a great, easy plug-in to tap into their overhead system. You can also utilize your own speaker there. Of course, it comes with Zingerman's food, so kind of a win-win.
Can't go wrong.
If you've eaten their food. It's catered by their catering events team. The full service events. Planners will help you every step of the way. Take all the stress out of planning. They're really super nice there. Tara has been very kind to me every time I'm there. Single serving appetizers, plated entrees, anything you can think of. Zingerman's Gray Line. It's the place to go. So look them up, zingermansgrayline.com. Their phone number is 734-230-2300. 734-230-2300, zingermansgrayline.com. And again, thanks to them for sponsoring today's episode, because I can't be here without a sponsor at this point.
Why would you want to be anywhere without Zingerman's?
Kind of don't want to anyway. So we talked a bit about, you mentioned like a desert island song. I actually had planned to ask you if there was one album you would cover from beginning to end and do a show out of it. What album would it be? Like, what can you see yourself like putting a great spin on?
Yeah. Oh, man. It would be, I'm just going back between two right now.
Do them both.
Okay. Maybe the only person on the planet Earth that would say this, but Presidents of the United States of America self-titled debut album.
The one with Lump.
Lump. And Lump is the one song that I would, maybe try to skip.
Yeah.
But yeah, that whole record, it's jangly and punchy and rhythmic. The lead singer, it's a trio. I love a trio. There's so much space, and you really, there's nothing to hide behind. But he just, the lead singer plays like a half bass, half baritone guitar. So it's super jangly and punchy, kind of like, it's like if AC/DC wrote gave animals like personification and didn't take themselves quite as seriously. It's just this really fun rock and roll, just wild adventure. And I love all the melodies. And it's just, 12 songs about things that you've never heard anybody write songs about before. And since,
You're right. That's not a likely answer. What's the other album?
Yeah. I would, there's this live Eric Clapton concert that I have loved since I was a little kid. And it's called One More Car, One More Rider. And it's a live album that he does. And I have worshipped this thing. It's like a church service at my house when I listen to this. At least once a year I'll watch the whole thing or listen to the record and play along. And over time I've just learned all those songs, and I do love that so much. But everything I'm thinking of is 90s alternative rock, basically.
That's your jam, right?
Yeah, Weezer, Pinkerton, I could definitely do.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, to be fair, you're sitting here playing acoustic. Most of the time people see your solo and acoustic. Yeah. However, if you pick up a Steve Everett album, full rock album, fully blown, punchy, like you said, catchy, it makes sense. Do you ever get to tour with a band or play shows in you're in Nashville these days, right?
Yeah, I've lived in Nashville for about 10 years now.
Okay.
And when I play in town, I have a band that I use, and I've always loved touring with a band. But it's not always cost effective. Yeah, and I think as you get a little older and realize what your numbers are like, and you start taking that into account more. I think when you first start out, you're like, whatever, I'm going to take my band everywhere. I'll lose however much money I have to because I'm just trying to get my name out there. And then I think you get past that, and you're to a point where you're like, I have to keep doing this. I love this. But it does have to pay my bills. So.
Yeah, that's a problem.
Yeah, it just seems like a lot of guys and ladies and whoever, as they get to their late 30s, it becomes like a more of a math game. You see like, all right, well, I'm not going to just be able to drive 12 hours in a day and sleep in floors and couches forever. This is a limited time deal. So I think that kind of leads me to not playing as many band shows, but I sure do love it when I'm able to. And I'd rather break even on a show, play it full band, than make money, play it by myself, for sure.
Your favorite shows you've ever played, have they been solo or band?
Ooh, a mix of both. Okay. I do love playing solo because it gives me time to be creative with the banter in between songs, and it gives me time to think of stories. It's also way less pressure because I don't have to stay true to a set list. So if the spirit moves one way or the other, I can really respond to what's going on in real time. And so, my solo headline shows are like 2.5 hours long because I tell so many stories and, ramble on. But with the band, it tends to be a little more tighter. I will say that my favorite moment on stage ever is I opened up for Sister Hazel at the House of Blues in Myrtle Beach. And I wasn't solo, I was a duo for that. But just the electricity that went through my body, I'd stay there forever. That was incredible.
Who puts on the best live show you've ever seen?
Need to Breathe.
I will agree.
Unbelievable.
I go see them pretty much every chance I can.
Yeah. I have this, I don't even know if I'm supposed to say this. I was in a Need to Breathe music video that never came out in like 2008. Wow. And, but I was able to steal a screenshot from the back of a camera because I got to drive this 44 Ford in the music video. It was for their song Hurricane off of the Outsiders record. But yeah, man, I lived in Charleston, South Carolina, which is where they lived for a while. Some of them still do. And so I just kind of got on that bandwagon really early. And I saw them play a show at like a 200 cap room in Atlanta, and a few shows on that Outsiders tour. And then, it was like 6 months later, they were selling out 5,000 seat theaters, and Taylor Swift took them out, and they have just blown up. But I mean, it hasn't done anything to change who that band is. They have from day one been just incredible guys and an unbelievable live band. And Bear's voice, it's insane that you can do that night in, night out and never lose it. It's just wild.
It has evolved. His voice has come a little bit more gruff, but I love it the way it is. But
yeah.
Compared to the first album, it's like, okay, I can hear a difference. There's actually one of my honors in life. There have been a few. I've described one before we started recording today, but Need to Breathe were playing a show at the Michigan Theater, and I was hoping that the guy at the label could hook me up with an interview with them because I would really love to be the one that gets to interview them this time. Last time it was somebody else. He said, how about something better? I said, well, what would that be? How about the very first interview with Wilder Woods? I'm like, what's that?
Nice. Yeah.
So it hadn't even been announced that Bear was doing a solo project. There was a couple of videos out there. No one knew who it was necessarily, unless you just knew that voice. And
right.
I recorded an interview like a month before they announced it was him. I wasn't even allowed to use it yet, but it was like, I got to talk to Bear, like the first person to talk to him about Wilder Woods.
Yeah.
That's a pretty cool honor. So
I imagine it was a lot different. When you're in a band and you started it when you're young, like it means, an incredible amount to you for sure. But when you do a solo thing and it's just you, I mean, you feel naked and it feels like you have been laid bare. Yeah. And then when somebody actually wants to talk to you about it, you are just so excited. Like I'm sure you got a different, take on him in that interview than you would have with the Need to Breathe crew.
Probably. I enjoyed it for sure.
Yeah.
Well, as I was combing through your catalog, I just got a couple of the CDs I didn't own from you when you came today, but I could stream the others that I hadn't heard yet. And I noticed you've got a song called Victoria, another called Amy, another one called Juliet, and another one called Jessica. So who does Steve Everett love? Any of these women anymore?
So basically, man, like I've always loved songs with girls' names, like in the, as the title or the chorus. Like something about that's always been cool to me. And, keep in mind, I put my first record out in 2011. So like this has been over a 10-year stretch that There's been a few women that I've dated, but
teasing.
Yeah, no, but it has become, there's definitely enough now that anybody I date, like I'm dating a girl named Jess now, and she's wonderful, but, I have this song from my first record called Jessica, and she's, not super stoked to listen to that one.
Well, that begs the question, how does it feel to perform those songs about people you're not with anymore? Does that ever make you feel uncomfortable? Are you...
Not at all. Not at all. I mean, I think, making a record is, you just capture a moment in time. Like, these are the songs that I have written. And so I went in 2011 and I had what I had. And in the same way that, like, if you wrote a love note to a partner and you found it 10 years later after you guys weren't together anymore, it's not like... It's not pathetic that you wrote a love note to somebody you don't love anymore.
No, it's not.
Yeah, it meant what it meant at the time. And
it's your history.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's like I wouldn't cover up a tattoo or anything like that either. Like, you wanted it, like, you got it now. Just, it can either be a lesson or something
or a song.
Cool. Yeah, yeah.
It might mean something to somebody else.
Exactly, yeah.
Well, I was paying attention to the lyrics in Cloud of Dust, and according to that song, you made music your full-time gig in 2014. Is that true? I feel like there's a reference in that lyric,
yeah,
too.
Yeah.
Is that when you, like, said after... doing, your first album might have been 2011, but you were still delivering pizzas and things like that. Was that still part of your gig until 2014?
Actually, it's apropos that I'm in Michigan because I worked for a Jets Pizza in Nashville. And when I moved to Nashville, I had like 40 cents in my checking account as I rolled into town, and I had an empty tank of gas. And I went to a Jets to get a job, and this guy, Sardor, was from Uzbekistan, and he was the guy who ran this Jets chain. And I was just like, hey, man, I want to work here. I'll be a really good employee. I don't have any money. I need to borrow some money to fill up my tank to deliver pizza, and I'll pay you back after the first shift. And he was just like, yeah, I know what it's like to, be somewhere new and be starting. And it was just, maybe if it wouldn't have been somebody who had immigrated here and was getting a fresh start, I really don't think they would have been as flexible with me. So I was very lucky. And so he gave me $20. I filled up my tank and delivered pizzas. And I did that for 3 years. I would work at a Jets downtown for lunch, delivered all the record labels and stuff. And then in between, I would like go home, shower up, and then go out to the suburbs and catch all the people who had gone home for the night and deliver to different Jets in the evenings. And so I would do that for 14 straight days. And then I would hit the road for 14 straight and play shows. And he just let it happen for 2 or 3 years. And then finally I got to a point where, and it was so hard for me just from the way I was raised and like my dad's voice, like just keep making the money, keep working hard. And then it was just all of a sudden I was turning down gigs that were worth more money than working my job. And it was just like, I guess, and it was the weirdest feeling. It was like unclipping your belay on the side of a mountain, and just like, well, I guess I'll just keep climbing from here.
Free falling.
Yeah.
To quote Tom.
Yeah. God bless him.
So,
yeah.
So since 2014, what would you say your greatest achievement has been as a songwriter or a performer?
Oh, man.
Having your name mentioned in Rolling Stone. That was something you said was pretty cool, but has there been something
Yeah,
equally
but that has nothing to do with me,
No, right.
I kind of feel like, I think it's okay to have a small career, and to have, I don't feel connected to the result of whatever happens with all of this. I think my job is to diligently write songs, and I've, dedicated a lot of my life to the pursuit of that craft. I want to be a really great songwriter, and I want to have a really great live show. And if it's with the band, then maybe it'll be, high energy rock and roll. And if it's just me, like I try to make it funny and, but how it gets received kind of isn't up to me. All I can do is the best I can and then just kind of let the chips fall. So I really just try to, I want to write the best songs I can write. Actually, I have these 4 keys that I came up with when I was 19 that like totally changed my life, if I may. The first one is, this is just for artistic people, make the best art you can make is number 1. Number 2 is be the best person you can be. Number 3 is pay your bills, however you have to do that. And then number 4 is just have a good time. And that's like literally I try to check that box every day, all 4 of them. And it's just kind of let me not worry about the end result or whether or not this gets legs and turns into an international, huge hit. Yeah, and I think Bear from Need to Breathe kind of feels the same way about Wilder Woods. He's like, well, I've got these songs, I got to get them out, so I guess that's what I'm going to do.
That's a cool analogy, and I appreciate your insight on that. How about another song? You like to do something from the newer album, something you've written that hasn't been released yet? What do you? Yeah,
actually, you were asking what my best accomplishment was, and honestly, like it's always whatever I feel like is the best song that I have. I just kind of always think that's the best accomplishment you can have as an artist, And so I'll play that one now. This is called The Only Way. And I got an email on the way over here from the International Songwriting Competition, which is a really cool thing. And they get like, tens of thousands of songs that they listen through. And they nominated this song for Song of the Year, which I'm really excited about. So this is The Only Way.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Actually, I wrote this. I know I talked about Derrick Henry living across the street earlier. And it's because the house where he lives, there's like 12 houses now where there used to be one house. And the house that got bulldozed, they had a sign in their front yard that said, "Build like you live next door." And kind of everybody in Nashville had gotten together to kind of like protest all the developmental building. And, because it's quadrupled the size of neighborhoods by adding so many houses where there were just one. And, the same thing happens everywhere. But basically, I was just drinking my coffee one morning and saw them bulldoze this perfectly good house out of nowhere, and they still had their sign in the front yard that said "Build like you live next door," and so I ran across the street after they were done, and it takes some months to build a house, and it takes 2 hours to bulldoze one, just unbelievable. And so I ran over and I got that sign out of the rubble, "Build like you live next door," and it hangs in a big frame on our living room wall. But yeah, I was looking across the street and just judging that family, and after a couple minutes of that, it hit me like a ton of bricks. Like, man, you don't know where they are. You don't know what their situation is or what you do in their situation. And so I just this song just flowed out, and it's called The Only Way. A man from the city came, they're putting up houses, like 6 or 7 where there used to be one. Made me an offer that I had to consider, but I should have just turned and run. 'Cause we've got one in the 5th grade and another right behind it. They think the universe is just North Carolina. All I can think about's the doorway in the kitchen. It's covered up with notches, names, and inches. 'Cause there's a million ways that you can build a house, and as many you can use to tear it down. You can fill it up with treasure that you find along the road, but love's the only way to build a home. Lady at the bank said I'd be foolish not to sell. Most of my neighbors had appointments there as well. All I can think about is Judas kissing Jesus and giving back the 30 silver pieces. 'Cause there's a million ways that you can build a house, and as many you can use to tear it down. You can fill it up with treasure that you find along the road, but love's the only way to build a home, yeah. I wrote a letter to my kids, hoping someday they'd forgive what Daddy did. When it was finished, I just threw it in the trash. The answer I was looking for was right there in my hand. There's a million ways that you can build a house, and as many you can use to tear it down. You can fill it up with treasure that you find along the road, but love's the only way to build a home. Love's the only way to build a home, yeah.
Steve Everett's my guest today on Acoustic Alternatives, and that's a song from his excellent new album, which is not in front of me. It's on my desk, unfortunately. Little Winds, highly recommended record released in 2021. And a few of my friends are actually thanked in the credits of that. Kathy and Chris Malin and Jennifer Haskin are thanked in your credits there. I was late to the Steve Everett party, but I'm glad I came.
Absolutely. I've got a mug that Kathy Malin gave me that says, "I've got people in Detroit."
Cool.
So I'll add you to who I think of. I know Ypsilanti's a different place.
Well, I live in Plymouth, so it's the city that way, east of yours.
Plymouth,
exactly right. So that is among the songs that has. I'm going to ask you what your favorite lyrics on the record are, but there are 3 favorite lyrics in the new record. So can you think of your favorite lyric from the record?
Oh, you've got 3.
I've got 3 that I've chosen. I want to see if they match yours.
Okay. I grew up, in a very conservative family. So that whole Judas kissing Jesus, and giving back the 30 silver pieces.
That's a good line.
Thank you. I was proud of that, and it was nice to, I wouldn't consider myself like a necessarily like religious person, very spiritual and believe in, all the good stuff that I was raised to believe in. But, I just don't love a label, but I do think that lesson is fantastic. The whole, when you get blood money, it's pretty tough to enjoy it. And so I really wanted to include that. Otherwise, I guess I have a song on there called Cloud of Dust. And there's Strangers give me $20 bills for my long drives. Friends just give me Adderall, so I arrive alive. I think that's a
I like
nice
that
little
line,
turn
too.
of phrase.
Those are good ones. My three favorites that reached me were you can't hide a flower from a honeybee,
Okay.
because I'd never really thought about that analogy being really, I mean, you're using that for humans,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
which I loved. All the glories in the start and the finish, most of what happens in the middle, most of what happens is in the middle distance. And
Yeah,
I got that right. All the glories in the start and the finish, most of what matters
yeah,
in the middle distance.
right. Yeah,
And that's just profound to me. Like, he's right. I'm trying to get through the middle of my life right now, but yeah.
yeah. I think I think we don't do a very good job of conditioning people for actual life. I feel like we raise people in our society, and we kind of get you ready for like the big moments. Like, oh well, you'll have a kid and you'll get married, and one day you'll die, and here's how you want to feel when you die. We talk about your deathbed, and it's like, man, can I live 80 years of my life to just have one good moment at the very end where I look back fondly? Like, that seems like a waste,
Kind of does.
And it just seems like we're very good at the extremities of the wave. When we hit a really high one, it's like, here's how you deal with that. And when you hit a really low one, we have resources. But the majority of your life is just right in the middle, in that wave. And so I just think you have to look at it a little differently, and nobody says you can't have fun in that wave or enjoy that wave in the middle.
It's got bumps, but yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
The third one you just sang, you can fill it up with treasure that you find along the road, but love's the only way to build a home. Damn, that's good.
Thanks, man.
good.
Yeah, I mean, just seriously looking out the window, watching them bulldoze a perfectly good house that I just saw them spend money to fix up. They had just gotten done with like a 6-month renovation. And so I felt bad for the contractor and the workers who did the work to just get these people a higher, asking price to then be torn down.
That's crazy.
Yeah, but at the same time, like, that's not the worst thing that's ever happened. Like, as we speak, Russia's invading Ukraine. That's insane. And like I didn't, I slept at a hotel last night, clean room, and when I woke up, there was no part of me that was like, maybe you'll be woken up by bombs dropping in Ypsilanti.
Right.
So I try to think about those things and stay grounded. But I appreciate the love on this record. I definitely felt like every couple years you've grown and you've changed, and you make a new record, and it's kind of you really feel like you can only stand behind the most recent stuff you've written, because all the older stuff feels like old lessons, and you've changed since then. It's certainly like you're bringing up the girls' names. Like, some of those are still friends of mine, and some people I haven't spoken to in a long time. So I think all of us just need to keep our heads down and not put so much pressure on greatness or folly, and just kind of enjoy the in-between stuff.
Well, no matter what your job is, you should be getting better at it. So every album should be better than the last one, right? I mean, if your job was to sell burgers, you should be better at it 2 years after you started selling burgers, right? So it doesn't matter what you do. You're supposed to get better at it.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I think I've been getting better at what I do as well. I hope so anyway. Another song on the record, although Homeroom is one I like, it does sound like it could have been written by a much younger man. Tell me about what inspired Homeroom.
Yeah, I've got, it's kind of a companion song to a song called LMNOP that was on my 2008 release, and or 2018, and that song's called LMNOP, and I just kind of wrote this LMNOP song about my elementary school experience, and that was just a really fun space to inhabit, and I think everybody, when you put yourself in that little kid headspace, nobody's racist when you're a little kid, nobody's sexist when you're a little kid. It's just like, we're all in this together. And so I think if you can get people to that headspace in a song, I think they're a lot more willing to be cute and fun and funny and silly if you can make them feel like a kid again. And so that's a fun space for me, honestly, sonically and lyrically to examine and kind of inhabit. I really enjoy writing songs about childhood. I don't know why.
Takes you back, makes you feel good.
Yeah, and I didn't even particularly enjoy my childhood as much as just like I remember being very serious about, like, adults had told me, like, you got to fall in love, you got to find what, you got to get, like, this is the only way you can do this thing, And so I was just like, well, I better go ahead and like figure out these women. Like, I don't want anything to do with them yet, but I need to. I mean, if we're gonna end up together anyway, I might as well make the best of it. And that was how I approached it. It was a very like scientific method. Like I need to get to know these people because we're gonna have to interface later on.
You mentioned humor in that last bit. I wonder because your stage banter is quite humorous. Who inspired your sense of humor as a kid or as a stage performer? Like, was there somebody that you kind of look up to as a humorist?
Yeah, I have always loved stand-up comedy, and the only way that I got stand-up comedy was when late-night talk shows would have guests on. So, like if David Letterman would have a comedian, so I just got these like little 2 to 5 minute bits. It's not very long, and so that was my intro to comedy. Was like you need to be funny in a couple minutes, and if not a couple, then wrap it up within 5. And then they go on to the next thing. And so it's almost like a variety show, like Howdy Doody. Like they come out, they do the sketch, and they move to the next thing, I swear to God, I'm not like a 68-year-old man talking about Howdy Doody.
No, I get it.
But yeah, and so basically I think that I thought that was, humor is like when your dad's friend that always tells jokes comes over. And it's, a joke takes a couple minutes. And so I just kind of like, when I started playing shows in between songs, what do you talk about? You're like, all right, here's another song.
While you're tuning, should you tell a story? Yeah.
Yeah, and you're a kid starting out and you don't have good stories. And so I would just like, I would either talk about how awkward I was being. And then, all of a sudden people loosen up like, well, at least he knows he sucks at this. I just figure if there's something you can do while you're up there to entertain people, it really doesn't matter what it is. Like as long as you're not, doing anything morally reprehensible.
Sure.
Go for it. And so I think the being exposed to humor in a 2 to 5 minute segment just kind of set up perfectly for in between songs.
You have not abandoned the physical media. I've got a couple that I just got from you today. I've got a couple at home. What is your thoughts about physical media at this point in the music industry? Because you got a decade or so behind you now, right? And we know where it's going, but what are you going to continue to do this, or are you going to go? It's not worth it anymore.
Oh man. No, I mean, I knew this was it when I was 10. I joined a band, my first band when I was 15, and I'm 37. So like this has been my full-time focus and the only thing I've cared about. I was a music major in college. I've just always done this. I've always been in a band, booking shows and doing all that stuff. And I just ran out of friends to be in bands with, which is the only reason I ever went solo, But yeah, I mean, this is me. I've devoted my life. Like I want to be the best songwriter I can be, and I'm gonna keep making records. And if nobody comes to the shows, nobody comes to the shows. Like I've got to make the best art I can make, be the best person I could be, pay my bills, and have a good time. And to have a good time, I've got to make the best art I can make. And play shows.
Do you find that the physical CDs are a benefit at shows like the kinds you play because it's something that people can take home? If they're seeing you for the first time, they can remember you that way. Is that kind of how you feel about it?
It has become like selling a headshot or something, like
calling card.
Yeah. I tell people if they don't take off the plastic wrap, then they make excellent coasters. But yeah, no, I still firmly believe in physical media. Like I write my songs, pen and paper. When I read books, like, I do the audiobook in the car a lot, but I definitely don't use the e-reader. Like I want to hold the book.
Yeah, don't use the e-reader while you're driving.
Well, yeah.
Please get here alive.
Yeah. But yeah, I'm definitely a firm believer in long form records, 10 to 12 songs or more. So LPs and there's got to be liner notes, like we grew up worshiping
Thank you.
Liner notes. Like
Thank you.
Who played on this? Who produced this? What are the lyrics to this song?
Yes. Exactly.
Where did you record? Like, is this somewhere I could go and maybe get some similar sounds? Like this is how the whole music industry started.
Tell all your singer-songwriter friends the same thing. This is the truth. Not all of us are out there buying them anymore, but some of us still want to buy them.
Yeah, I don't make the physical CDs with the hope that like people will listen to them. I make them because if there's a 13-year-old kid. That's who I was when I was 13, then it would be like an abomination. Like I could never have a favorite artist who didn't release physical stuff and have liner note. Like that's just part of the experience.
Thank you. One more interesting topic that we haven't covered is your involvement with Rock by the Sea.
Thanks for bringing that up.
Tell me about that.
Yeah. I am actually somehow I've become the vice president of Rock by the Sea.
Wow.
Vice
president.
Right. Doesn't that just sound huge?
Name tag says that?
Yeah.
Whatever, vice president.
I went down to Florida in, I guess, 2013 for the first time to play a Rock by the Sea. And Beth Gosnell is our president and founder, and she's a wonderful supporter of music, and she's really good at finding new bands and artists and building them up and helping them get new opportunities. And she started this children's cancer charity music festival called Rock by the Sea. And we're a volunteer board, so all the money we raise goes straight to charity. And we are a 501c3, so we can give you a tax deduction form if you would like to go to rockbythesea.org and click on donate. You can be a monthly donator and give $5, $10, whatever you want. But yeah, basically right now we focus on the brain tumor immunotherapy lab at the University of Florida. So there's this man named Dr. Dwayne Mitchell who started this, pediatric brain tumor immunotherapy lab. And it's the same brain tumor, the glioblastoma, that actually killed John McCain. And it was 100% fatal almost in kids under 12 when they started this lab. And they have a clinical trial where they treat kids, and they are curing like 1 in 3 kids when last I checked.
Wow.
So it's an unbelievable project. And we just found out that they just were having trouble getting funding because, people want to treat adult cancer, people with money and jobs. And so the children's cancer, like especially the rarer tumors, it just kind of falls through the cracks. And we have loved being involved with Dr. Mitchell's lab at the University of Florida. But you can find out more at rockbythesea.org, and we'd love to see you at an event sometime. We basically just do 500 to 1,000 person little boutique music festivals in small towns all over America, and usually try to be by a body of water. And it's just, like we've got an event coming up Mother's Day weekend in Destin area, Florida, and we've got Sister Hazel playing. We've got 1,000 Horses, and we've got Will Hogue. I'll be there as well. But it's just a huge lineup. You can find out everything you need to know at rockbythesea.org.
Thank you for sharing. One final question. I know you do some writing with others. Have any of those songs turned into hits for other people?
Not yet. But man, you get close one time and then that fire is lit and you're like, oh, all right, I was right there. Yeah. And it just it lets you know that it's real, and that a lot of living in Nashville is just odd. You go to the grocery store, and some of my favorite songwriters ever, I see at the grocery store sometime, and it's just so wild. Yeah, what a weird town to live in. But yeah, you get a little taste of being in the right room and being with the right people, and it's unbelievable how easy it is to just kind of like wind up in that situation when you live somewhere like Nashville. So I've just tried to stay diligent and stay on the hunt, but. I'm 37. I figure I can write songs till the day I die, so I got plenty more opportunities.
There you go. How'd you like to do another song before we end it?
Yeah, I'd love to. This is one of my favorite songs I've ever written. This was from my second record called Central Standards. And a funny thing about Central Standards is that I guess because of the name of it, it got misclassified on iTunes. So in 2016, this came out, and I had the number 6 jazz record in the world. Not a
Bravo.
jazz. Yeah. It was 5 different Frank Sinatra records, and then me, and then Nina Simone. And I was like, I did it, Nina. But I like to imagine that a couple, that they, whatever jazz record comes out every week, they just listen to it in like Des Moines, and they go to their living room and they dance. Just, old retired couple, and then they kicked it on, and it was just this rock and roll, catchy, fun, upbeat, the music to smile to, basically. But this is a song from that record, and it's called Honeybee. And it's I used to drive this black Ford Ranger, and it would get covered up with pollen in the springtime. And I was at a stop sign, and these bees were just swarming my truck, thinking it was a flower, I guess. And I remembered my high school natural science class, and Miss Rory Coons was my teacher. And she told us about bees and about how they pollinate all the crops and everything, but also told us about how, the females are the ones that can sting you, and they don't want to sting you because if they do, their stinger falls out and they die immediately, which means that the female honeybees can lose their temper one time in their whole life, which is insane. And I started thinking about that. And just like, how much that would change things if that was the same for humans, So I just kind of wrote this song about all we can learn from the honeybee, about temperance and tolerance. Well, I like the life of a honeybee. Plays the whole thing out with just one sting. And if she can't learn how to just be kind, she'll have to leave the one she loves behind. You're misunderstood at picnics, swatted down at baseball games, keeping flowers blooming while you try and earn your name. Yeah. You're just flying over families, just beyond our reach, running for your life so you can stay. You use your wings and keep your anger put away, 'cause you've learned how to live to sting another day. We put your labor in our tea, but in the spring you make us itch and sneeze. For the sweetest taste we sing your praise, but for the yellow dust we curse your name. Yeah. You're misunderstood at picnics, swatted down at baseball games, keeping flowers blooming while you try and earn your name. You're just flying over families, just beyond our reach, running for your life so you can stay. You use your wings and keep your anger put away, 'cause you've learned how to live to sting another day. And ain't it just like people being at each other's throats, focused on what's different when what's in common weighs the most? You're just flying over families, just beyond our reach, running for your life so you can stay. You use your wings and keep your anger put away, 'cause you've learned how to live to sting another day.
Steve Everett on Acoustic Alternatives with Honeybee. Thank you, Steve, for being part of the Acoustic Alternatives podcast and coming up from Nashville, visiting with me and sharing stories.
Absolutely. It was my pleasure. I love the show. I'm a fan of you, and I can't wait.
It'll be out soon. And I want to thank again Zingerman's Gray Line. Without them, this was not going to be seen, probably not heard either. Zingerman's Delicatessen, you've probably heard of that. The Gray Line is one of their fine establishments that you can rent for a facility to throw a party in, a wedding, whatever it is you want. Zingerman'sGrayline.com, 734-230-2300. Check them out and tell Tara I said hello when you give a call to her. She's a super sweet human, and I appreciate them so much. And I appreciate Grove Studios for being here in Ypsilanti for us to record this podcast at. Steve, I look forward to seeing you again soon.
Likewise, brother. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for joining us on Acoustic Alternatives.